All right, welcome into the Fairview Social Podcast. It is morning here in Fairview, Tennessee. It's a very nice sunny morning, almost fall-like out here, even though it's been like summer during the day. But we are on part 3 of the time when things got bad, but then it got better series here. I don't know how many of these we'll do, and I don't know if people are even enjoying this, but just kind of documenting some things here, so we'll just roll with that. So in the last episode, we were talking about how Nikki and I landed at Grace Chapel, and just the direction of my family I was feeling good about. The kids were happy to be there. We were just generally happy. I mean, what I learned is when you open up and let God into your life, so many things can change. I've spent so many years of just being depressed and miserable and, filling those voids in my life with, whatever it would be, alcohol, buying things, and none of that stuff fills the void. You see all the time where people win the lottery, or you can be rich and famous, and then people are depressed and they kill themselves. And I mean, that's just a reality. And what I learned over the years is that's the lack of having God in your life. And I always learned from Grace Chapel, from one of the classes that I took, there was this guy that said that, God in your life is kind of like a light switch that dims, and you go through these chapters or these times in your life where you feel the presence of God more than you feel him in other times. And I definitely, throughout the past 10 or 15 years, have had those moments where it's very strong and then it's very weak. And the reality is it's just us. It's if we allow ourselves to get like that, or we distance ourselves from God, then you're not feeling that as much. But at this point in the story, man, we were firing on all cylinders. God was speaking to me daily, but that's because I was listening, and even now, I feel like God speaks to me daily, and I choose to listen sometimes, and sometimes I don't. And it's a constant thing that you have to keep up with. It's a constant relationship that you have to nourish and be a part of the conversation. And it's easy for us to not be a part of the conversation. But anyway, so at this point, we're rocking and rolling. We're going to church all the time, join these classes, and I was just soaking it up, just anything I could, because this was just new to me. And I felt like there was no strings attached type situation. When I think of church when I was a kid, I just felt like this awful rule book, and I can't do this and I can't do that. But it's really not like that. It's just, it's just adjusting our moral compass to the way that we should act and the way that we should treat people anyway. And, religion and everything, I used to not believe in God because all of the worst things in the world, all the wars and all the everything else is because of religion. But yes, all of that stuff I believe is true. It is because of religion. And that's where I think that humanity gets things messed up. It's like we're just so focused on the religious aspect of it as opposed to the relationship with God. And I feel like religion is man-made, or, you have this denomination over here that believes this, and this denomination over there that believes that, and you have this other different religion that believes this or that. And the thing that's funny about it is usually they all direct back to God, and it's just how we get there, how we not get to heaven, but get to our relationship with God. And people are like, I'm right. No, I'm right. I'm right. No, I'm right. And it's exhausting. And as a former non-believer, that's the reasons why. You focus so much on religion, and you focus so much on, what I believe in and my idea. We cling to our ideas too much, and we lose sight of having the relationship with God, which is what he wants. But anyway, all that aside, in the story, we're going there and everything's going great. Meet a friend. Well, he wasn't my friend at the time. He was my teacher, my friend Myron. He kind of took to me and I took to him. And I think that it re-energized his faith because I was so curious and so soaking it up, being a sponge. And generally how people are is, if you're talking to somebody and they're listening, you want to talk to them more. And that's probably the situation that happened with Myron. But, he's dedicated his whole life to preaching the gospel and getting the word out there. But he just clicked with me. It resonated with me. He was a fun guy, funny, human, messed up like the rest of us. But man, you get him talking about God and it's just amazing. And so he kind of took me under his wing and I just couldn't get enough. I was talking to him regularly. We did these exercises and some classes that I took up there at the church about how to hear God's voice, and still to this day, journaling and doing things like that can really, really enhance your life, and talking to God and truly hear from him if you're really willing to listen. And so we had a great relationship, volunteering wherever I could, helping him with his classes. I probably took his classes that he was teaching at the church at least 20 times each, just because I was soaking it up, and then I was helping him with things. And there was a point where we were even teaching some of these classes. But anyway, so in October of that year, this was years ago, Myron says, hey, one of the guys that was supposed to go on this trip to Haiti, he can't go, so I want to take you with me. And I mean, that was kind of like, no. And the running joke was always, Tim's never even left Fairview, Tennessee, and we're going to take him to Haiti, which was, mostly true. Never been on an airplane, never done anything, never gotten outside of my comfort zone. And so, he told me about it. And the thing is, we were leaving, and I don't know, I think we had just only had a few weeks. And so that part of me, the part of you that holds you back from doing things because of fear, was like, well, I guess I can't go because I don't have a passport, and I've never had anything like that. I've never left the country. I've never been on a plane, barely have left Nashville area. And so he just kept on pushing me. And he knew that I needed to get out of my comfort zone. I needed to see the world. I needed to see the way that other people live. And so I ended up fast tracking my passport. I got it within like a week or something. You can pay a little extra money and get them pretty quick. So I did that. And it was at the time, it was 3 flights to get to Haiti. And funny enough, I didn't even really think about Haiti that much because I was too concerned with being scared of going on an airplane, which looking back on, it's ridiculous because I've been on a plane hundreds of times now. But, I'm in my early 30s at this point, and I never even been on a plane or gone anywhere. And so in the way that my mind works is like, I can't even think of past the plane ride because that was my biggest fear at that point. And so he kept on, rightfully so, he kept on dragging me into this, dragging me to the finish line, constantly pushing me and trying to get me outside of my normal thinking. And so anyway, it's this whole big thing of when you go on a mission trip, you need this and you need this and you need light clothing and you need bug spray and I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. And, I I didn't know what to expect. I just packed a lot. And it's funny, the last trip I went on, I pretty much just had a backpack, or a small bag because you don't need anything. I mean, it's like, yeah, you're going to take a shower and yeah, you're going to, put on some clothes and all that, but you don't need a ton of clothes. You're going to be dirty. It's not a fashion show. And so, but that first trip I packed and packed and packed and made sure I had everything that I had. We can go to the airport. I don't think I've ever even been in the airport before that. And we go in and everybody knows when you're going through the TSA lines, and this is before they redid the Nashville airport. It's a lot nicer now, but just going through TSA, Myron, he had a fast pass or whatever it is where you can go around, or the pre-check. So you could just go around. He's like, all right, I'll see you over on the other side. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. There was five other people that were with us, but he was kind of like my guide here, my teacher. But he ran off, which is funny because Myron is a whole nother story. But anyway, so we get through all the security and everything. So this particular flight goes from Nashville to Atlanta. And then the next flight was from Atlanta to Miami or Fort Lauderdale, one of those two. And then the next one goes from Fort Lauderdale to Haiti, in the Cap-Haitian area. There's two big places in Haiti. There's Cap-Haitian, which I did a lot of the work at, and then Port-au-Prince. Those are probably the two that you would ever hear about. And Port-au-Prince is I did more stuff there in the future from this story. But so we get on the airplane, we board and all that. I remember that I kept like a little diary because I wanted to tell my mom all about the trip because she was just so tripped out that I was like going on a plane, going out of the country. So I kept this diary up, and I remember I wrote all of the things that I felt about all this so I could tell her about it. And, but yeah, I get on the plane and I remember, my seat wasn't next to anybody that I was on the trip with. So I was just sitting next to a stranger, which, remember, I know that all of this stuff, and even hearing myself say this right now is kind of ridiculous, but I'm just scared of everything. I was scared of doing anything back then, and this was way out of my comfort zone. Going on an airplane, I hadn't even got to the thinking about Haiti yet because I couldn't get past this. So all of you that have been on a plane know that Nashville to Atlanta is like a 45-minute trip. You go up and then you go down. And so, you hear the engines rumbling and you're about to take off. And it still to this day amazes me. There's so many people that when they get on a plane, they get on, they start to sleep, or they, close the window up. But me, every single time, I'm always amazed at just like we can throw this big ass piece of metal into the sky and go anywhere that we want really fast. And I was sweating, man. I was so scared. Get on that plane, going down the runway. And the guy next to me, he was one of those people that did not care at all that we were even on a plane. And he had I think I was sitting by the window so I could watch it all. I remember I took some video of the plane taking off, which is just funny to think about now because I literally have been on hundreds of flights since then. But I just remember I was so nervous about it. So anyway, we get to Atlanta. You brace for impact on the first time you've ever done a landing. And those of you that fly know that some landings are better than others. And this one was, I guess, as I remember, it was a decent one. It wasn't a scary one. I've been on some scary landings where you think you're going to get sideways on the runway there. But anyway, we get off, wait for the next flight. We get to Fort Lauderdale, and so this is American Airlines or something like, Delta, and we were flying Delta. But the last flight there was this company called IBC Airlines. They go to like all these smaller countries. Years after this, American Airlines started flying straight into Cap Haitian from Miami. So it was like a direct flight, which was really convenient. They quit doing that since then. But we had to fly on this IBC. Oh, yeah. The trip took 2 days because you got to stay overnight at Fort Lauderdale. And then the next morning you get up early and you fly into Cap Haitian because there's only one flight in, one flight out a day there on this IBC. So we get to the airport real early. And we're sitting. It's like not a normal gate. It's like we're like downstairs in like some basement, like just sitting there waiting to get on. And it was funny because you wait and you wait and you wait. This is like a puddle jumper type airplane. This is not a huge commercial craft. So you're waiting to get on. And they just open the door up in the back and you just go out to the tarmac, and there's no terminal or anything like that. You just walk out to the plane. No checks, no checking for weapons or anything like that. You just open the door. All right, go get on the plane. Get on the plane. You're like crammed in. There's like two seats on one side, one seat on the next, a few rows down. Puddle jumper, guys. That flight was about 3 hours long. And it was the scariest thing I'd ever done at that point, because it's just like zzz, flying to this third world country. So we land, and that was a sketchy landing, but I'll never forget. And I took some pictures of this. I probably should have showed them here on this in retrospect. They opened the door to the plane, and there's just plywood from there to like this trailer that I guess is the airport, because I guess they're working on the place, but it's just plywood. This is not like an airport like you see in the United States. And it was when I got off that plane, my brain unlocked the nervousness and scared thinking that I was having on the plane, and it unlocked, and I was like, oh shit, I'm in Haiti. Because that didn't even affect me yet. I didn't really even think about it. And when I saw that plywood, I'm like, I'm in Haiti. And then I got really scared. I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm ready. I want to turn around, because they open the door and it's humid as hell out there. You just immediately start sweating. Plywood on the ground to walk to the trailer. It was, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks right there. So walk into the trailer, I don't know anything about customs and immigration and all that kind of crap. I don't even know how it works in the United States, let alone in Haiti, where everything's just kind of like weird. It's like, so we go in, you got to pay like $20 to get into the country, which again, I thought was funny. Well, I didn't think it was funny at the time. It's funny to think about it in retrospect. And they're like, Myron's like, you're going to see some guys here, and they're going to, they're going to want to try to go through your bags. You just walk on past them. And I'm like, walk on past them. He's, yeah, they're just trying to intimidate you. And so I remember thinking that Myron was just crazy. But after years of going and doing these trips, I learned that like he's absolutely right. And Myron has a lifetime of mission work, lifetime of doing this stuff all around the world. And you learn pretty quick that United States is the exception. The rest of the world, not exactly like Haiti, but more like Haiti and how they live and how things get done. The rule of law is very flexible in other countries. So I paid my $20 to get in. They stamped my passport, and I'm walking over. He's like, you just put your head down and you walk straight over to this door, and our guy, Jacqueline, will be waiting for us. So I try to do this, and this guy that's like, my memory of him, he's like 500 pounds, pure muscle, waiting to beat my ass. And he stopped me and made me put my bag over there so they could go through it. So they just open the bag and they just start going through your shit, taking whatever they want, putting it in their pocket. And I'm like, hey, that's my, it doesn't matter. It's gone. So finally they let you go through. Everybody wants you to, I guess they're cab driver type people. Everybody wants to serve you. Everybody wants to take you. Everybody wants to take you to wherever you need to go, but we already had somebody there to meet us. So we go, and, it's just, you're just fascinated because you're in a foreign land. This is not like, this is like jungle / beautiful / awful. The smell of diesel, gas, putrid, trash, shit. It's like this sensory overload. And it was very hard to adjust because we're in the back of a truck driving down the road and, just seeing, well, I say road loosely, people riding around on the motorcycles. You've probably seen stuff like that on TV. 10 people on a motorcycle riding around, and, just you're driving through the city and it's just awful. Places falling apart. It's just really bad out there. And I remember thinking like, oh, these poor people. But what I learned over the years is not, oh, these poor people. They don't know better. They don't know what kind of life we're leading over here. What they see, if they came to the United States and saw how we'd live, they'd be like, probably scared of it. But I remember thinking like, these poor people. But those people had more joy than any of us could have ever had. They're just living a simple life out there. Their thing that they needed to do for the day was just walk down 3 miles to the river and get some water, get a bucket of water and carry it back to the house so they can make dinner. That's the kind of living that they're doing. Driving down the road, you see these little stands down the street selling mangoes, knowing that the damn mangoes are just falling out of whatever trees around. They're selling mangoes. You got somebody sitting there on the side of the road cooking something. And all of this is like sensory overload. There's so much going on. There's so much, like, just how people drive in the traffic. I don't know how you could, if you were drinking and driving like a lot of people do here in the United States, if you were doing that over there, you would for sure die. These people got reflexes like you wouldn't believe. I mean, it's just like, there's not, people are just driving in front of each other. There's no like rule of law here. There's just, Myron's joke was always, you don't drive on the right side of the road. You don't drive on the left side of the road. You drive on the best side of the road, which is absolutely true. And so we get to the place that we're staying, and I thought it looked pretty nice. Well, what I come to find is it's not very nice at 9 or 10 o'clock at night when you're going to bed, and it's all brick wall that's been retaining the 100-degree heat all day. And so it's like an oven when you're in there trying to sleep with no power. Mission trips back then are not the same as mission trips now, to where you have all the things that you need. It's like a lot of these places, a lot of these a lot of these mission groups all over the country go, and even the place that we stayed at the next time we went, some group had come down and put some kind of solar system, a solar electricity system on their rooftop to power fans and power the place at night, And so the evolution of that in 10 years that I was doing mission work is pretty crazy. But that first time was, it was very hard to deal with all that. But anyway, so that whole week was just very, I remember I didn't process it for years and years and years. And I went so many times. I've probably been to Haiti. I don't know. I was going 3 or 4 times a year for 10 years, 10 years. So I've been there probably 30 times. And maybe not that many, I don't know, but it was a lot. But it's still, even to the last time I went, it's still hard to process. Eventually you start kind of, you're comparing it to the United States. And so I remember driving down the road, you see some guys working on a tire. You're like, okay, that's Discount Tire. Or you see this person cooking some chicken and rice or something on the side of the road. You're like, okay, that's like KFC. It's like you have to, if you're comparing it to what you're used to seeing, then you start seeing it how it is. You see, these people are selling clothes knowing that all those clothes were donated to Haiti. Somebody's on the side of the road and you're like, all right, well, that's TJ Maxx over there. It's like you start kind of putting it together and figuring out that they're just etching by. It's the same as what we're doing here. We're just a little bit more modern. Well, not a little, we're a lot of bit more modern than how they are. And so it's really weird. But all of the trips that I've been to Haiti will run together. So maybe on the next episode, I'll just give the general, just the general things that we were doing each day. And because it's the same, we worked with this group called New Hope Mission, that they have 5 or 6 schools and churches that they built throughout Cap-Haitian. They've got all the pastors and all that kind of stuff in this network where we would go and we would, help them with whatever they needed. As far as, and a lot of times those people just need prayer. They're out there trying to win people for Jesus, and it's, you think it's hard here. It's harder there to do that kind of stuff. But we'd go around and, do food drives and all that stuff, which I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. I feel like a lot of times you're going and, people are like, oh yeah, I believe in God. Yeah, give me the food. No, man, it's like, we don't need to go. Yes, we need to give food, but it doesn't need to be like, well, if you believe in God, then here's this food, which it wasn't like that, but it's what it felt like if I'm them looking at the situation. Oh, here's the white people coming over and giving us food. And so I have a lot of mixed feelings about all that kind of stuff and how it works. And I'd rather just be there with the people. And, I've made a lot of friends over there, and it's doing the mission work over there is one thing, and it is helpful. But at the same time, it's just like there's something kind of not barbaric about it, and something that's like just doesn't feel right, doesn't sit right. But I'll talk more about that on a different episode. Got a lot of stuff about mission work in Haiti and all that, and we'll get into it. There's no rush on it. But thank you guys for listening. We'll wrap it up for this one. Check out the social media, like and share. That's if you could do anything for me to do that, like and share on social media. Check out the website, www.thefairviewsocialpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.